Hello and welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name's Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange, and you can find an Instagram account and a Facebook page for my small business. I run a little yarn shop based here in Penarth, which is in South Wales in the UK, and we're called Yarn and Yarns. You should hopefully find the links to those in the box below. Welcome back if you have joined me before, and a very big hello to anyone who might be watching for the first time. You'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and spinning, crochet, sewing, in varying degrees, mostly knitting and crochet. And also I often do a little bit of chat about my adventures of being a yarn shop owner. I used to say a new yarn shop owner on that bit, but it's been 18 months now, so not so new anymore. This week I've got my family coming to visit me, so I thought in order to squeeze in a video I'd do a vlog style video. So if you haven't watched my channel before, I basically just record a few minutes every day. Well, not every day, when I can. And more accurately when I remember. And then after several days I kind of add those together. So yeah, just little snippets of what I'm up to on a daily basis. So this morning, as you can see, it's chilly enough to wear a lovely hand knit. I think this will probably come off as the day goes on, but I'm wearing my coffee date shawl, which is a pattern by CC Armin, and I used 3 lovely colours of yarn to make this. Is a big asymmetrical wrap. You'll find all the details over on my project page on Ravelry if you're interested in finding out more. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I've got an hour or so before I head out to the shop. So with my family visiting tomorrow, I have got to get on and tidy up the house and make the rooms more usable than they usually are. So I'm sat in my dining room at the moment. Behind me you can see my dresser, which is a lovely tiny little dresser that I picked up in a charity shop ages ago when I lived in a little flat, and it was the perfect size to fit in one of the alcoves that I had in the flat. But you can see a few knitted pieces that live on the dresser all the time. So there's some little chickens, and they're a free pattern that you can find on the Rowan website. I think it's just rowan.com, or it might be rowanyarns.com, and the pattern is Ernest, Enid and Esme or something like that. There's also a little octopus up there from Susan B. Anderson. It's octopus pattern, and he is wearing a little knitted hat too. Just in case you can see it, I'm not sure if you can or if my head is going to be obscuring it. I've just got to explain this really awful ornament up here, just in case you think I have no taste whatsoever. Actually, I'm going to grab it and show you a close-up because it really is something to behold. Check this out. So the story behind this, more than a couple of years ago, the first year that James and I were together, so we're talking 6 years ago now, he'd booked a trip to go and see his sister in New Zealand, and my sister at the time was living in Malta. So while he was away, I went to Malta. And we decided to have a little competition to see who could bring the tackiest souvenir home for each other. And this was the thing that I found in Malta for James, which is just, it's made of shells. It's these really strange palm trees and a couple of creatures that could be cats, but they have like open chests. Looks like they've been through some sort of grim autopsy. So that is the story behind that, which I just thought bore us a little bit of an explanation. So anyway, this morning I am going to do a bit of fabric cutting in order to clear my dining room table. So I use my dining room table as my cutting station because it's the biggest sort of flat table service in the house. A couple of weekends ago, you might remember if you tuned in before, I had a bit of a sewing spurt and I made a whole bunch of project bags. I'm happy to say that I'm now sold all but 3 or 4 of those, I think, so they've gone really well. But I ran out of interfacing, so behind me on the chair I have a bunch more bags that I'd cut out on that sewing session that weekend, but didn't get around to finishing. So my interfacing has arrived. I used a different company than I have previously, and this interfacing is quite a bit thinner than the one that I usually use, but that's okay, I will go with it. Obviously I have bought and paid for it now, so I'm sure it will do a sterling job. So I need to cut the interfacing to size, and then I can just remove all of this cutting stuff and pop it upstairs so that we can use the table. Sorry about the ambient background noise. Newt's really cross this morning. James has been off work this week. He's been working from home, and he's gone into the office today, and obviously I'm out to work soon, so she's a bit cross because she's not allowed out. The reason she's not allowed out is we don't have a cat flap, and as you have just witnessed, she's very noisy. If she was a little bit less noisy and a little bit more independent, then I'd just let her out for the day, but she will sit by the door, front or back, meow, 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 like she's being strangled. So I wouldn't want to inflict that on the neighbours all day while we're out. So that means that you guys get to put up with a bit of newty noise this morning, I'm afraid. Anyway, yes, cutting out interfacing so then I can clear all of my cutting paraphernalia off of the dining room table, and then that means that hopefully we can use it when my family are here at the weekend, rather than me making them sit and eat off their laps because my dining room table is covered in fabric. So that's the plan for this morning. Morning guys, it has been a few days since I recorded the last segment. It's now Monday for me. I have to say, oh, excuse my wet hair, I have lots of things to do this morning, so I literally jumped out of the shower and hot-footed it up to the shop here. Plus it's also rained on me on the way in, so that didn't help at all. So I've had a really busy weekend, and I had it planned to record a few things from our weekend adventures with my family, but I just didn't have time. Friday morning was super busy. I had an unexpected message to say that a parcel was going to be delivered into the shop, so I had to pop up here in the morning, which I wasn't planning on doing, to accept delivery of that. Then my family's plans changed, and instead of getting lunch on the way to me, they decided that they'd been delayed in traffic and would have lunch when they got here, so I had to hop out to the shops to get enough food to feed 6 people. And then in the afternoon we went down to the pier and had an ice cream. Plans also with my family changed slightly, in that it was meant to be my dad, my brother and his wife visiting us, but my dad lives with my sister and my nephews, and he had to bring my 2 youngest nephews with him. So yeah, we had a very energetic 3-year-old and an 8-year-old boy in the household all weekend. So I'm sure any of you with kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews will know what kind of chaos ensues with that sort of scenario. So on Saturday, mostly to keep the kids amused, we went to Barry Island for the day. We had a paddle on the beach in the sea. We played adventure golf, got fish and chips, wasted a few pounds on the slot machines in the arcades. So yeah, had a really nice day. And then on Sunday, my dad and my brother very kindly helped us with a few jobs around the house, and we just had lunch, and then they left about mid-afternoon yesterday. So a very jam-packed weekend. And also my brother very kindly offered his chauffeuring services, and the shop is looking a little bit different at the moment, so I'm just going to move the camera and give you a quick flash of some of the things that have changed. So behind me I have a ton of empty cubbies, well, aside from a few books. So I've been planning on destocking all of our remaining Debbie Bliss. We've had a big sale over the last couple of weeks, and that has emptied a few of the cubbies, and anything that's left, I asked my brother if he would allow me to use his car to take home. So we now have a ton of empty shelves and space in the shop. So I have got lots of reorganising and rearranging to do this week. As many of you, particularly here in the UK, will know, Debbie Bliss, who is a big commercial supplier here, recently announced that she would exclusively be selling online through Love Knitting. So all of us retail shops who have stocked her yarn in the past and who have stock of her yarn are now no longer able to order any more. So obviously I've had to think about destocking that yarn. It's a reasonable blow to us because Christine, who was the owner of the shop before, was a big fan of Debbie Bliss. So when I took on the shop, we had quite a big stock, and obviously the customers around here are used to that. So it's a pretty popular yarn. But there's nothing I can do about it. I think it's a good opportunity for me to try and bring in some new stock. That will happen slowly over time. As I've mentioned before, it can be quite costly to bring in new yarns. So for the time being, I'm just going to spread out some of the stock that I've got. I've got several cubbies where I've got 2 or 3 different yarn lines shoved in just because we didn't have enough space. And I do also have a couple of new yarns for the winter season that have been sitting in bags and boxes out the back because I didn't have anywhere to put them. So I should fill those spaces up fairly quickly. Basically, I had a big sale in the shop over the last few weeks, which was pretty successful. I think that's contributed to us having a reasonably busy summer. So any stock that was now left, I decided I would just take home. Eventually, I will end up listing that on eBay. The problem at the moment with Debbie Bliss is everyone who is in the retail sector is in the same boat. So all of the other big online retailers, all of the bricks and mortar shops have been left with a stock of Debbie Bliss that basically they can't replenish and can't reorder. So as your quantities dwindle, obviously if someone wants 8 skeins or of something, with any other line and on any other occasion, you can offer to reorder in that colour. But yeah, obviously that option was removed from all of us retailers a few months ago. So yeah, I've just decided to destock the shop of that. There's lots of Debbie Bliss listed in sales all around the country. So all of my local customers here have bought what they want now, and yeah, I'm just going to keep the stock at home, which it's a bit of a pain because obviously when I've got yarn sat in boxes at home, it's not making me any money. I've paid for that yarn and, you know, it's just sat there. There are so many Debbie Bliss sales on at the moment, unless I want to give away the yarn on eBay, then there's just no point in selling at the moment. So I am planning on keeping it boxed up, and then either later on this year or maybe next year, I'll keep an eye on eBay and the prices. You know, I want to at least make I'm not being greedy. I don't want to make profit on that yarn necessarily, but I would like to not make a loss on it. So I don't really want to sell it on eBay for less than I paid for it. And at the moment, there are listings on eBay for bargain prices. So I thought I'd wait till perhaps the mad rush on that has died down, and then maybe next year list some of that and try and recoup some of that money. So yeah, my day today, I have got a group in the shop today, but I've come in early, so I'm hoping to clean out all of those cubbies while they're empty, and then I shall leave them to properly dry overnight, and then tomorrow I'll start the rearranging of the shop. But yeah, I thought I'd come in this morning before the group arrives to try and get some of that cleaning done so that I can get some time at home this afternoon. I have sold a whole bunch of the project bags that I made a couple of weekends ago, so I need to sew up the new ones that I cut the interfacing for on Thursday, which was my last video clip. So yeah, that's kind of the plan for the day. We'll see how that goes, and if I have time, I'll check in with you later and let you know. Morning, and welcome to my Tuesday. I didn't get a chance to record anything else yesterday. It was really busy in the shop yesterday morning with our group and also some customers, and then I wanted to finish off the cleaning that I wanted to do and everything before I left the shop. So by the time I got home, I was feeling pretty pooped and I didn't really feel like recording anything. So I flaked out on the sofa, played a bit of Xbox, watched a bit of Netflix. It was just me and the cat last night. James is away on a business trip. So yeah, it was quite nice just to relax. But before I head into the shop, sorry, I'm messing around because my yarn and knitting under here is in a bit of a tangle. But I thought I'd show you some actual knitting content because I'm conscious that I've recorded a couple of segments and I think mostly it's me just waffling on. So I thought you might like to see a bit of actual knitting. So while my family were here at the weekend, I thought it'd be nice to have a sort of pick up and put down project to work on in case I had a few sort of knitting minutes. And I had a few here and there, but not that many. But I cast on for a new sock commission project for one of my lovely customers. So this is the yarn that I'm using, which is Opal Safari in the Namibia colourway. I'm really sorry about the colour blowing out. It's a grey day here, and that's better. I'll hold it this side of the screen. And I was struggling to find somewhere in the house that wasn't too dark to record. So consequently, I'm by the window in the living room. So yeah, the light's a bit strange, but this is reasonably accurate representation. As I say, this is Opal yarn from their Safari range, and the colourway is Namibia. And I am knitting a sock for one of my lovely customers. It's a little bit weird at the moment because I got, well, I'll show you first. So I have pretty much finished the first sock. So my customer is a lady who I've knit many socks for before, but I need to modify the recipe that I knit for her this time. She has had some real problems with her legs and feet recently, and consequently she is needing to wear pressure stockings for the foreseeable future. So she's asked me if I would knit socks that would fit over the stockings. So I used to knit a 64 or 68 stitch sock for her, depending on what needles and what yarn I was using. So this time I've gone up to a 72 stitch sock, and I'm making I've kept the leg fairly short, but I've made the foot a fair bit longer to accommodate for the extra width of the stocking. But I'm in a bit of a tangled mess because I've got to the point, she's asked me to not go down so narrow for the toe. So I've knitted a little bit extra in the foot. I've gone down to 16 stitches on each needle for the toe, but I'd like her to try that on before I actually kitchener that shut, just to make sure that the foot is wide enough and the toe's wide enough. If not, then I can rip back a little bit and make that sort of toe bit even wider for her. But I've just got this on a spare cord at the moment because last night I wanted to go back and put in an afterthought heel, because this yarn has got quite a nice pattern to it. It's not a stripe as such, although, well, that's probably the wrong thing to say. You can see it is stripes. It's not a regular stripe. It's got these sort of fun sort of partial stripes in these sections, separated by these definite sort of stripes. So I didn't want to interrupt that patterning, so I went back last night and put in an afterthought heel. I've just got to kitchener that shut. I just ran out of energy for doing anything last night. So consequently at the moment it's a big old jumbled mess. I pulled from the centre of the ball to knit that heel. So I have cut that off now, but the end keeps getting tangled around the cord and the end that's still attached to the ball. So yeah, it's actually been a really nice knit. It's taken a little bit longer than my usual sock just because it is a fair bit wider than I usually knit. I wouldn't have gravitated to this colourway personally, I don't think. Obviously I purchased it to bring into the shop, but then I try not to just buy sock yarns that I like. I try and get a nice range of colours. But yeah, I've really enjoyed how this is knitting up, and for some reason it reminds me of bamboo when I'm knitting it. I think when you sort of look at it that way, it's got sort of like lovely greeny sort of stripes So yeah, you might think I'm mad, but that's kind of what it's reminding me of. And these greens have been a lovely calming colour to work on after the hectic manic weekend that I've had. So yeah, I'm going to kitchener that shut tonight, and then I shall put the toe back on the actual needles, and then I will pass these along to my customer to try on and make any adjustments before I start the second sock. But yeah, I cast these on Thursday night, I think, and we're now on Tuesday. So and I didn't have huge amounts of knitting time, but I did work on these quite a lot last night and Sunday night. So yeah. And the second project that I have started, although I haven't got very far with this one at all, is my birthday cast on. So I mentioned in the last video that I was planning a new cast on, and I thought it would either be socks or a jumper, and it turned out to be neither of those. So my lovely friend Sylvia, who is Rose Garden Cottage on Instagram, gifted me a beautiful pattern for my birthday, and she and I have been friends online for a little while. We actually met through the Loop and Bar Ravelry group, I believe. So Loop and Bar is a lovely podcast by Kate. She's taking a little bit of a break at the moment, but I'd highly encourage you, if you don't already watch Loop and Bar, to pop over and catch up on some of Kate's videos because they're lovely. But Sylvia and I, and lots of other people, were chatting regularly at one point on the Loop and Bar Ravelry group. I don't use Ravelry so much anymore, sadly, just because, time, really. I put all my projects on Ravelry, but I just don't get as involved in the forums as I used to, which makes me a little bit sad because I miss my community over there, but there are only so many hours in the day. Anyway, I am digressing. Sylvia gifted me a lovely pattern by Helen Stewart, who is Curious Handmade, and it's the Hilltop shawl. And if you watched my last video where I made lots of bags, I had some Peter Rabbit fabric, and Sylvia purchased one of my bags. She's a big fan of Beatrix Potter, and the Hilltop shawl is obviously inspired by Cumbria and Beatrix Potter. So she gifted me the lovely pattern, and I cast that on my birthday. So I haven't got very far, but I have just finished the first eyelet section. It's not going to be super easy to show. Oh yeah, okay, you can see that, hopefully. You can see my wall shining through there. So yeah, it's a really lovely, simple shawl with lots of garter stitch and eyelet sections. So I figured for such a sort of striking, simple pattern, I would use some beautiful, just simple yarn. And so I have dug out from my stash this lovely Wensleydale yarn, which I purchased at Wonderwall, not this year, but the year before, from Home Farm Wensleydales. So this is 100% pure Wensleydale wool, farmed in Cotswolds in England, here in the UK. So I purchased quite a few of these lovely natural brown skeins. It's a 4-ply yarn, but it is quite fine to knit with, I'm finding. So it is 200 meters to 50 grams, but as I say, I'm finding the wool really, really quite fine, even for a 4-ply. So the pattern recommends a 4mm needle, but that was giving me quite a loose fabric, so I went down to a 375. Even so, I'm still getting a relatively loose fabric, but that consequently might mean that my shawl is slightly smaller than in the pattern, but I don't mind that. I think it's a fairly straightforward concept in terms of there's garter stitch panels, and then there are the lovely eyelet panels. So what I might do is, once I get to the end of the pattern, I might put it on waste yarn, block it out, see how big it is, and if I feel like it needs to be a bit bigger, then I might just carry on and do a couple of extra sections. I've got plenty of yarn. I think I've got 3 or 4 skeins of this. So I've got 4 skeins of this. So I've got plenty of yarn. Originally I was going to knit a lace scarf, which was a pattern that came along with the yarn. I don't know if you remember, I cast that on a little while ago. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you may have a recollection, but to be honest, I didn't chat about the project much. I'd cast it on, but I wasn't really enjoying knitting it, so I stopped knitting it. And then once I was gifted this pattern, I decided I would definitely use this yarn, so that scarf got frogged. But I like to think that Beatrix Potter might approve of this. It's a lovely, natural, simple kind of yarn. Yeah, I think it's quite fitting for the Cumbrian sort of rugged, simple country landscape. So yeah. So I will look forward to growing that project as soon as I have a little bit more time. But again, it's just for me. I did cast this on Friday before my family arrived. So although I didn't make huge amounts of progress, it's my 2018 birthday cast on, and I couldn't be happier with that. Those are the two projects that I've been working on over the last couple of days. I've also got a project on the go in the shop. It's a cabled baby jumper for one of my customers. She knit the front and the back and has asked me if I would finish the sleeves and sew it up because she lost seam with it. So I've been working on that over the last few days, so that should be finished quite soon. So yeah, I think that's it for this morning. I need to head on into the shop now and get busy rearranging my shelves. So I'll see how much progress I can make on that today. Other than that, I will have another evening on my own. James is going to be back this evening at some point, but probably not till 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. So I'm sure I'll get some lovely knitting time in when I get home from work as well. But yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Bye for now. Morning, welcome to Wednesday. I've got a super busy day in the shop today. We have 2 groups today. So yeah, I don't think there'll be much time for me to record too much today. Did you hear that? Noisy newtie on the prowl. You must have heard that one. Yesterday passed by in a flash. I had completely forgotten that I had a group in the shop yesterday morning. They come every now and then, and I'd forgotten that yesterday morning was one of their weeks. So I got to the shop a few minutes later than I had planned, and they were waiting outside the shop, so I felt really badly about that. But these things happen. You know how things are. Life's so busy, your brain's crammed full of stuff, and it's hard to keep it all in there. Anyway, consequently, I didn't do as much rearranging in the shop as I had hoped. I got a fair chunk of it done, but there's still lots more to do. No chance of doing any of that today because, as I say, 2 groups today. Crocheters this morning and then a mixed group this afternoon. I also didn't get much knitting time yesterday. However, in the evening, I started a beautiful new project. I have been meaning to get round to casting this on for a couple of weeks now. The lovely Kyla, who is Arctos Knits on Instagram and Ravelry, she also has her own lovely YouTube channel, popped a call out for test knitters for a beautiful pair of fingerless mitts that she'd recently designed. So I offered to do that for her. They're called the Hedge Nettle mitts, and this is my progress so far. The colour is not quite true, as you can probably see from my crazy face. Particularly the further I get back, the light's pretty crazy this morning. It's raining here today. Perfect weather for staying indoors and knitting, if you ask me. But anyway, back to my test knits. So these are the Hedge Nettle mitts by Arctos Knits, and they are going to be coming out on Ravelry soon, I believe. So this is my progress so far. I worked on these for like literally an hour last night. So as you can see, it's got this beautiful leaf motif and then some lovely lace. They're fingerless mitts, so the lace sort of continues a little way up past where I am, and then it's just plain knitting from there on in. So yeah, really quick knit. So I'm hoping to have these finished this evening. I will be definitely working on these when I get home. The yarn I'm using is Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran. And according to Kyla's notes, I should have just enough in one ball to finish a pair of mitts. So I'm hoping that's to be the case. Obviously I shall weigh the yarn once I get through the first mitt. I only have one ball in this colour, so it could be a bit of yarn chicking if I do use more than half for the first mitt, but I'm pretty sure that it will be okay. I think if I do run a bit short, I might just on my second mitt maybe omit one row of the ribbing and perhaps a row of the sort of plain stockinette above this leaf pattern, so my second mitt could end up being a tad bit shorter if needs be, but I don't think that will notice in the scheme of things. But yeah, a really fun knit. As I say, I spent about an hour or so on these last night and they grew so quickly, and they're just beautiful. That it's just beautiful simplicity. I love it. So yeah, I thought I'd show you those. I also kitchenered the heel shut on the pair of socks that I showed you yesterday, so I shall be giving those to my customer today, hopefully, for her to try on so that I can adjust the fit if necessary. We're going away next week, so we're going up to Yorkshire to visit James's parents. We haven't been up there for 2.5 years since we moved here. They've visited us a lot, but I'm really looking forward to it. I absolutely love Yorkshire. They live just outside of Huddersfield, and we're hoping to visit with lots of friends, do lots of exploring. We're hiring a car for a week. I don't know if I mentioned before, we don't have a car at the moment. We haven't done for over a year now. So yeah, it would be nice to have some wheels and be able to do a bit of exploring. And we're hoping to get away for a couple of nights, just the two of us while we're up there. We haven't made any definite plans, but James has suggested York maybe, or that area. But there's loads of choice once we get up there. There's obviously the North York Moors, there's the Yorkshire Dales, and I love all of those areas, so I'm really excited about that. So I shall be taking lots of knitting with me. I don't know how much I'll get done, but yeah, I shall probably start planning that tomorrow, so what I'm going to take with me. So I might chat a little bit more about that with you tomorrow. But for now, I need to hot foot it to the shop. I need to feed the noisy cat, make sure she's sorted for the day, and yeah, just try and wake up a little bit and get ready for lots of tea making, lots of chatter, and hopefully lots of laughs in the shop today. I do love group days. Yeah, it's nice. We have some fun, bizarre and serious conversations, lots of tea, lots of biscuits, and yeah, it's just nice. It's nice community days when we have the groups in the shop. So I shall hopefully catch you later, and you never know, I might have a finished pair of mitts to show you soon. Bye for now. Hello again. I have a little bit of a confession to make. I accidentally deleted some footage. So a couple of days from the sneaky peek at my week are missing, for which I apologise. I have had my holiday to Yorkshire and we're back home again. I only found out about this deleted footage when I went to edit today. I debated whether to just delete the whole thing, but I figured as there's a little bit left, I'd just put it up anyway. So I'm apologising for the abrupt ending. I'm also apologising for the discombobulated nature of the video as a whole, but I hope you'll forgive me. And I hope you found something in the video that you have enjoyed anyway. And just in case you haven't, I am going to leave you with a little bit of footage of purring Newt to hopefully make you smile. Thanks for watching, and I promise that my video will be slightly more organised and a bit better next time. Until then, I hope you get to do a few of the things that you enjoy, and great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.
Clear the shoe neck part. I'm not dirty.